The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
I'm Kim Commando, America's Digital Goddess, and you're listening to the Secrets of Technology podcast. Enjoy.
You're listening to the Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to the Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Father Andrew Kinstetter. Hey, Father Andrew.
Hello there.
And Pat Scott. Hey, Pat.
Greetings.
Folks, I want to tell you about another show on the StarQuest Network you're sure to enjoy called The Secrets of Doctor Who. You can find that wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/Doctor Who. So before we get started into our main topic today, I've got a little bit of follow-up from our friend Matthew Clark, who joined us last time. He's the farmer from Missouri who talked to us about agricultural technology and how he uses tech in his business as a farmer. And he sent a link to this article from a website called agweb.com. And it talks about how farmers were at CES in the John Deere booth. CES is the Consumer Electronics Show that's every year in Las Vegas, and it's the biggest gathering. That's going to be our main topic today, but it's the biggest gathering of electronics companies, consumer electronics companies. Everybody's got a thing to sell to anybody, basically, that has electronics in it. And so CES brought real life farmers to Las Vegas, and good for them. That sounds like it'd be a nice perk. And showed off the new farm equipment, like the new automated high-tech tractors and other devices that they've got coming to assist. And I really love this idea. We need, as a society, I think this is one of the things that came up last time, we need to know more about how our food is produced, who's producing it, what tech they're using, what the needs they are. I think it's for something so fundamental to the way we live, fundamental to living. I think it behooves us to know more about this industry. Father Andrew, your family is in agriculture too, right?
Yeah. We raise beef cattle, so Black Angus.
Nice.
The meat doesn't just magically appear in the grocery stores. It starts on our fields and goes from there. But yeah,
you don't walk out to the field and pick up a shrink wrap package of meat that has appeared.
Sirloin.
Not exactly. No.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah. All props to farmers and ranchers out there. I have high respect. It's a wonderful, one of the oldest of all professions, as I mentioned last time.
Mm-hmm. And tech has definitely made it a lot easier.
Yeah.
I mean, even my dad, he jumps on board with new tech for the most part. And even in the tractors, it's crazy how more advanced they are now than they were when I was a kid growing up.
Yeah. I keep saying I want to take a trip out west with my family sometime, and I definitely want to swing by the family ranch.
Oh, yeah.
Just say hi.
You are more than welcome to.
I know. I heard
my dad would love to show you the ranch and all of how it works.
Oh, I'd be that crazy Easterner who comes out and hangs out at the ranch. Put on my cowboy hat and my boots.
That's right.
And that whole thing. Awesome. That is cool. All right, let's get in before I geek out more about ranching. Let's get into our discussion of CES. And we're going to talk about some of the big things that happen at CES, the possibilities, that's what CES is about. It's less about the individual products. It's more about the possibilities of the future that it shows us. The trends. Remember a few years ago, the big trend at CES was 3D television. You had all these, the special active glasses, passive glasses. That was going to be the next big thing. Didn't actually happen, but
no,
it showed you what the industry wanted to do, and so looking at what CES is doing often will tell you where things are kind of going in the next few years with technology. So one of the big things at CES this year was something called Matter. It's a new smart home standard that allows devices from different companies from all across the spectrum to work together to interoperate. And I was trying to find a good analogy for what it is. It's like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So when you buy a laptop from Apple, or you have, Wi-Fi routers, they all just work together because they have a standard called Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 5, that sort of stuff like that. It used to be 802.11, but those are standards. And because all the devices follow a standard, they work together from different manufacturers. Well, until now, smart home devices have been kind of loosey-goosey. This is HomeKit, that's Google, that's Amazon. And they might work across different specs, but they didn't work together well. And that's the promise of Matter, which is brand new. So there's not a whole lot of products out there just yet. But this CES was the one where they started to show actual things that are coming.
Perhaps a good analogy here would be is a bunch of people speaking different languages can't work together very well. And
Yes.
Matter seems to be that common language that they're all going to speak,
Right.
so they can work together.
It's the lingua franca. Yeah.
I was excited to see where they were talking about that some of the products that are out there now can have software changes that would make them compatible with Matter.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And that sounded really good, as opposed to, I got to go get all new hardware.
Right. A lot of the hubs that are out there now, so like Apple HomePods are hubs, Google Nest hubs, the Echo devices. A lot of the newer ones, like I've got some old Echoes, so those probably won't work. But all of my Apple stuff will be Matter compatible to just push an update. Akara hubs, that sort of stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that. And just setup will be so much easier. Setting up smart home devices can be such a pain, getting them to recognize it, getting them to access the Wi-Fi and all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. There's this promise of that'll all get easier. So, yeah.
Wasn't there something else in that article that was talking about they're not going to need to connect to the cloud either? They'll be able to work on your local network. And
right.
so it'll work easier and more smoothly, and won't need to always go out to the cloud and bounce back.
Right. That they'll have to program them to do that. But yes, one of the aspects of the Matter profile is you can have a local hub control all the different devices. So as it is now, if your internet goes out, you can't turn your lights off. It's
right.
Like, well, that's no good. My wife has gotten mad at me more than once when the power goes out, the power comes on, and we have to wait for the internet to come back before we can turn all the lights off that came out in the middle of the night. So, so yes, it'll be nice to kind of move forward. This is the idea: is it's going to move smart homes forward to be more like the promise. The Jetsons promise, we always talk about us old folk talk about the Jetsons as that's the thing we want to have the house be like. And so there's some really cool things. One of them is a company called Akara, which it's going to be a pick of the week for me, several of their devices over the next few months. I've got some picks I want to share. They're a low cost Chinese company. I think their products are made, well, everyone's are made in China, but I think they're like just a rebranded Chinese product. But they have a new presence sensor that works with Matter, which it's not just a motion sensor, but it uses a bunch of different metrics to say, even though no one's moving around, say sitting very still at their desk typing, there's still someone there, and I won't turn the lights off on them.
Good.
Which is what I had to, I had a motion detector in my office to turn the lights off when I left. And like every once in a while, the lights would turn off on me. I'm like, I'm still here. And then I'm waving my arms around like a madman. Yeah. So Matter is interesting. And of course, all the new products they're coming along with that. So that's going to be, I think the Matter was probably the big thing. As far as other interesting products, for me, one that I saw that looked really interesting is a new laptop from Lenovo called the YogaBook 9i. So this new laptop from Lenovo is, what's cool about it is it's got dual screens, not side by side, but stacked one on top of the other. So it kind of folds out. And you can even kind of fold it back underneath, and the top screen that you fold underneath can become the trackpad. So it's a screen that has the trackpad on it. And I don't know if this would be useful to work on. You know what I mean? I'm not sure this is practical.
It looks fun.
It does.
But I think I would only use it for fun. They do have a keyboard with it, and that you can, and it'll even magnetically connect to if you have that touch screen as a flat surface, you can put the keyboard on top of it.
Right.
I still don't think I couldn't write a paper on just a touchpad.
I don't think it's a practical thing necessarily, like a product at the moment. I mean, I love screen space. I'm not sure vertical screen space is what I'm looking for, like horizontal.
So I thought it was interesting when I was watching that video. What attracted me to it was we've definitely gone widescreen with everything, with movies and with everything, and I would never go back. I think widescreen, I don't know, it just feels right. But what appealed to me about it was all the scrolling. So like when you open a news article, often like with my smaller screen laptop, like the top third is a banner ad.
Yep.
And that bugs me to no end. So like to have two screens stacked on top of each other, I would have a lot more text that I would read right away, which maybe that's a small thing, but I that appealed to me.
That's a good point. Yeah, it frustrates me when I'm on a laptop to like it's a huge cookie thing at the bottom,
right,
and a huge banner at the top, and it's like this tiny little. It's almost like a Tandy 100 screen of text in the middle.
And then that annoying little video that pops up that you can't figure out where the X button is to close it when you're trying to just read a news article.
So yeah, having all that vertical space, I think it would be good for that. But I just love that they're doing different things. Like we've had this laptop form factor for so long. It flips open with the hinge in the back, it's screen on top, keyboard on the bottom, and I'd like to see. And the iPad was a step away from that. The iPad is kind of a laptop, but I like the idea of seeing what we can do else that Lenovo has here. So I think it's kind of cool. So another thing that I saw was this LG was one of the first ones, but I think there were a couple at CES that are going for wireless TV. So this one has a power cable. There were some that are battery powered. There was this one from this small company that uses vacuum suction to hold it to the wall, and it's battery powered. So if the batteries run out, does your very expensive TV come falling off the wall?
That whole thing just made me nervous. Why? Because the video shows them attaching it to a glass window.
Yes,
and it looked beautiful, but I would be so terrified it would fall off.
Yes.
And I think $3,000 down the drain if it cracked.
I mean, it warns you the power's getting low. But like, what if you've gone out? Honey, do you remember if we left the TV on the wall? It's the 21st century version of have we left the iron plugged in or the oven on? But the LG one does have power, and it attaches the wall in the conventional sense, but it's beaming all of the signal, so it's got an extra box that it's got the HDMI ports, and everything else is being beamed. They said the latency, like for gaming, isn't bad, and some stuff like that. So, kind of interesting.
I think it's fascinating. I think it's more helpful cosmetically than it is practically.
Yeah.
Because it looks nice to have just the TV there and have a box kind of put away in the corner and just beam it to the TV. But I would suspect for the average person, I know myself, I don't mind a single cable of you kind of cover it up, put it in a cable box or whatever, and it looks pretty nice. I would much rather have that than a wireless thing with potential latency issues, because they said there shouldn't be any, but there's always going to be something.
It's radio. There's always radio interference at some point or another. Well, and you think about it, if you've got to run a power to that location, you can run a cable an audiovisual cable to that location too. So, it's not like you can't put the box in the closet or something anyway. You know what I mean? Run a cable surreptitiously to it. But I like that they're doing something a little interesting and different.
It would clean up your entertainment system right there by the TV.
Yeah.
You wouldn't need to have the Xbox and the Blu-ray player all just right there in front of the TV. You could kind of put it off to the side, but
that's true.
But I don't know if practically, like, you kind of having those in front of the TV doesn't really bother me, or below the TV doesn't bother me.
Right.
So.
I mean, their TVs are mounted over the fireplace, over the mantle, but people do that now, and they just run a cable maybe in the wall or along the mantle to another place. And this maybe would be like one less cable or something. I don't know. But yeah, I think what fascinated me most about it was a 97-inch TV. I don't know if I've ever seen one that big before in my life. Well, they have it's OLED with quantum dots. I'm not even sure what this means, but I think it means it's holodeck. We're going to have it's going to be like looking through a window, soon. It's kind of wild. I still have, I think, a 37-inch, 40-inch TV. It's hard to buy one that small these days.
Yeah.
It's actually hard to find. Like, I'm not sure I could fit a bigger TV in my where I have this TV, but I'm an old man, so I remember the days when that was a giant TV.
Oh, I remember those too.
So the other big field at CES was health tech. And the one everyone was talking about was from Withings, called the U scan. The U does not stand for the pronoun you or the you. It stands for urine. So it sounds weird and gross and silly, but it's actually kind of interesting. It's a urine sensor you put in the toilet, and when you use the toilet, it analyzes the chemical composition. Basically the same thing you do when you go to your checkup with your doctor, and they have you pee in a cup, and it will keep track of the various things in your body, which is kind of interesting. Like, especially if you have diabetes or some other diseases that I know, like with diabetes, they want to keep track of liver function, and that's why they like my doctor has me do that every so often. That's TMI, sorry, but there's just. But being able to keep track of that on an ongoing basis, this is the interesting thing. Quantified health is a really interesting area now. Like when we have the smartwatches tracking our heart rate and tracking our blood ox and doing all these things, we're able to track our health and health factors on a regular basis much more. And I don't know, this is interesting. One of the things they said was it can actually distinguish between different people in a household, which kind of fascinating.
That sounds strange, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, should make pregnancy tests a lot quicker.
Well, I was going to say it can do fertility tracking too, which is another aspect of it. So maybe for like NFP, it would be possible to use a tool like this to do help you tracking your fertility and your pregnancy. Kind of interesting. So those are the themes or the areas that I thought seemed interesting. Pat, what did you see anything that you thought was interesting?
Yeah, one follow-up on that medical stuff. I saw an article that was talking about, when you see all of these things that are medically oriented at CES, et cetera, just remember that a lot of them will never make it because they'll never get FDA approved or whatever approval. But it's at least showing the possibilities of things that are being explored.
Yes.
But there will be fewer of those products actually make it to market than there would be, say, hubs or TVs or...
Right.
So one of the things...
I'm sorry, evidently the U-Scan is coming to market. Like that is one that is coming. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I didn't explore it, but there was an awful lot of press and coverage on automobiles and the changes that they see coming out. A lot of things with cars changing colors and doing heads-up displays in interesting ways. But I figured you guys were going to cover it, so I didn't.
I was going to mention the car.
The BMW.
Okay, well, I'll let you do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was basically it. BMW is coming out with this, or they have this concept car that like, oh, it's got 260 E panels which I think I'd find annoying, to be honest. But it covers the outside of the car, and it can change up to 32 different colors. Or you know what I would do? What I would do is I would change the color based on the liturgical color of like Advent. I would be purple. I have
Father's rolling up in his purple car for Advent.
Inside my SUV, inside my SUV, I have different. You can change the color that shows up at night that like shines on your feet and whatnot.
Oh yeah,
and that one I do change to purple during Advent and green, and so maybe that's what I would do. But otherwise, I think it's too distracting. It's kind of cool looking, but it's
There was a movie. I'm trying to remember what it was. It was a heist movie where the bank robber had this high tech car, or a bank robber, whatever kind of crook, that changed color. So as they drove away, they changed the color so that they were now a different color car and fooled the police. There was a funny video from BMW with Arnold Schwarzenegger about this concept car. So it was a weird video, frankly, but it has like an AI in it, like an Echo sort of AI, and I don't know, the one that was in it was almost like the Kit from Knight Rider. I don't know that it's going to be that interactive, but it was pretty wild, the stuff they were doing with it. But yeah, the concept cars, they really kind of show where they're looking, where they're thinking. A lot of this tech, as you said, Pat, is never going to show up on a production line and that sort of stuff. But it often indicates what they're looking at, what they're thinking about down the line. So,
right.
Yeah.
Well, the things that I was looking at were a lot smaller in scope than what we've been talking about. But I thought they were interesting from a possibly practical point of view. Mm-hmm. There was the one that was a bike that lets you, while you were pedaling, it would let you charge up like a laptop or something like that. So you're getting health benefits as well as generating power for your laptop.
It's like a stationary bike?
Yeah, it was. Okay. So you could use it with VR. For instance, I have a lot of friends that do HoloFit with their VR. And so they get to travel through Paris or Venice or whatever on their holo bike, and they're seeing this stuff all around them, and it's good exercise, and they can do it in groups. Cool. So that I thought would be cool. What I thought it was funny was one of the taglines was, "This gizmo is either an ingenious feat of multitasking or the unironic fruition of a Black Mirror episode."
There was a Black Mirror episode where they had to ride bikes to produce energy. I remember that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so the second one was kind of car-oriented, and that was the Ring car camera, a Ring car cam. And it does like you do, with your Ring doorbell, et cetera. It can record, but it also records when your car is in motion, but also when it's parked. And it could detect break-ins and accidents and trigger recordings to start and sending real-time notifications to your phone if like somebody backed into your car while you weren't there.
So one of the things that dash cams are notoriously bad cameras. Like the cameras themselves are really low quality. In fact, I think it was Linus Tech, the YouTube YouTuber, did a video on dash cams, and a whole bunch of them, and they were all really bad, and most of them were actually the same camera from the same company, just in different packages. So I would be really curious to see how good the camera is. But one of the things I really liked that it said that it could do is you could just tell it Echo, or the ALEXA word, record, and it will start recording.
Which you don't have to do buttons or anything like that. It's voice driven. Yeah,
I have a dash cam, and I can never remember how to start the recording. And especially when I'm like in a situation, I'm like, I don't want to take my hands off the wheel, because usually if I wanted to record something's going on,
Right.
So if I could just yell out, record, and then we'll start recording, that would be great. The one problem I have with a lot of the Ring stuff is how slow it is. So when I tell, Echo, show me the front door, or show me the driveway, there's this long delay while it spools up. So I wonder if that's any faster with the Echo on the car. But I'm curious about this one. I would love to see that Amazon do something good with that.
You would like to see a Vine alternative so that you could test it out?
If they want to put that on Amazon Vine for us Vine voice users, I would happily take one of those for testing. Yes.
Then we were talking a little earlier before the show about glasses, and the one that caught my eye was AR glasses that, it could give you a lot of information, pop-up displays and direction and playing music, but it had a real-time translator. And the person who was reviewing him looking at this said that he had a conversation in Japanese with somebody and he doesn't speak Japanese, and it was translating the conversation for him. And he was real excited by that.
So, the other person was speaking Japanese, and it was showing it in real time on the glasses.
Yes.
And he was speaking back in English, and it translated for him. That's almost universal translator level.
Almost. I mean, that sounded really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well,
that's from TCL.
Google can already pretty much do that with your phone, but this is the
you're right.
Now you've got an eyeglass piece that you can.
Right.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Wow.
It also mentioned that the frames on these glasses, you could play music so you could hear it, but the rest of the world wouldn't hear it. It was geared that way. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's from TCL, who until now, as far as I know, has been a TV maker. So it looks like they're kind of branching out into this. They have an AR headset and a VR headset, but only one of those is actually a real product. The other one's a concept, I guess. But it's really, again, this shows where we're going. In a few years, this sort of thing is going to be standard out there. So it's going to be wild.
And then the other one that I thought was really good would be for the cooks in the family, that there's a very smart mixer. GE has a smart mixer, and it weighs and measures and things and built-in scale, and it's voice driven so that you can ask it to do things, and I didn't understand all the things it would let it do, but it sounded like a fun thing for again, if you could get one on demo.
Yeah. So that's the interesting thing is the scale bit really looks interesting, because then you don't have to weigh things and then add it. You can just add it right in. The voice control mixers tend to be loud, so I'd be curious how well it can hear you when it's running. The other thing is more of just as a mixer, how good is the mechanicals? Is it strong gearing in it? Is it going to be I don't know that I need a smart mixer, to be honest, but it's kind of interesting.
It was interesting. That was what I was thinking. It's like it's not going to be something that'll make me a great cook, but I thought it was an interesting thing to do in the kitchen. I mean, to add into the kitchen type of tech.
And thinking about other things that you can make smarter in the kitchen, the slow cookers, and where can Instant Pot go? That sort of thing, where maybe it can sense the temperature of the stuff inside it, or because with an Instant Pot, for example, you have to, it's great, but you got to set the times and temps, and it's not smart at all in that sense. It doesn't know what's going on inside it. It's just following your instructions. And I'd like to see more of these kitchen appliances become more smart about what they're doing to be assisting like this. So that's I like that. Kind of cool.
I didn't see this in the CES stuff, or maybe I did and I forgot, but there was something about an oven that had a camera in it and would give you feedback about where things were in the stage, as well as, of course, it had temperature sensing and timing and all that.
The June oven does that. Yeah.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Leo Laporte was talking about that recently on MacBreak Weekly, and you could see the state of your roast chicken that's it's in it. Is it brown enough? You don't have to get up and go to the other room. You can look at it on your phone, which is kind of wild. So yeah. Anything else? You had one more thing?
Oh yeah, I had one other. I just didn't want to hog the microphone, but there was a telescope that looked really interesting.
Yes.
A smart telescope. And what I thought was interesting is that it would compensate for light pollution so that people in urban areas could really view things very well without having the wash of the lights. It would make it incredible detail and striking colors, it said. And basically there was a lot in there that would make being sky watching much more exciting.
Well, I tell you, I love the idea of a telescope. I've had telescopes. They're incredibly hard to use and to learn to use, to point in the right direction, to see what you want to see.
That it would automatically, point to the right directions and increase the contrast, and so you can see the rings of Saturn really well, and that the one thing that I saw said something about it doesn't actually have an eyepiece. You use your smartphone as your viewer.
Yes.
But the detail was exceptional.
I mean, that's probably not a bad thing. Yeah.
So it's funny that you mentioned the telescope, because just today I got, but it's in Wyoming, and I'm not in Wyoming. It got shipped home. I've been waiting for years for this, but I jumped on the Kickstarter for it. It's so not a CES thing, but it is a Total Tech telescope. It's from Vaonis, called the Vespera. And it's a telescope that will VAONIS.com. It will connect to my cell phone, and it'll scan the night sky. You can take pictures, and it'll save it to your smartphone. So I jumped on the Kickstarter like 3 years ago, and I've only been waiting, and it got delivered to my parents' house today. So I can't quite use it as a pick of the week because I haven't tried it yet, but
sure you can. You just did.
But it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exciting.
Because as a kid, I loved that kind of stuff, but you'd never know, like, okay, I'm going to look at that point in the sky, but I don't actually know if that's the star that I was aiming for or what that star is. This thing, has maps of the night sky, and so it'll know exactly what you're looking at, and so I can't wait to use it.
It comes with a light pollution filter and a solar filter, and it seems like a lot of the same stuff, and it's looks like about the same price. Mm-hmm. So this is awesome. Wow. I look forward to hearing.
In Wyoming, there is relatively low light pollution. So on the ranch, I'm so excited. I'll get to try it out when I go home over the summer.
That's awesome. So I think those are all the things we had from this year's CES. It's fun to look and see what kind of technology they're developing, what the trends are, where they're going. And you're right, Pat, it wasn't innovation, but more just evolution of the things that we've had. CES is just getting back to in-person stuff, after 2020, the pandemic. They didn't have one in 2021. And I think last year, I don't know if they had one last year either. So
I think it was all virtual.
Yeah. So they're getting, there's just getting things back together again. But it's fascinating to see where things are going and what tech might be coming into our everyday lives. We're like unlikely to have a lot of this, the concept stuff, but that's really just an indicator of where things might be going. So very interesting. All right. So, and by the way, if you saw something from CES as listeners that you would like to share with us, let us know about, and let all the listeners know about that you think is interesting, you can let us know by sending some feedback to technology@sqpn.com. So we want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Eric R., David W., Frank R., Meg S., and Adam G. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. This StarQuest show is brought to you by Tim Shevlin's Personal Fitness Training for Catholics, providing spiritual and physical wellness through personalized nutrition, workout and prayer programs, and daily accountability check-ins. Learn more by visiting fitcatholics.com. So we have a couple of headlines that I wanted to talk about that are about some issues in society that technology is contributing to, maybe sometimes in not the best way, and things that have come up before. Surveillance tech is a big thing, and that's what these first two headlines really are. And the first headline is from Vice.com, and it says, meet the spy tech companies helping landlords evict people. And what they are these companies, especially like in New York, where they have rent control, that are really about helping landlords get the goods on tenants that they want to evict, finding them violating anything and then evicting them so that they can raise the rents and, get better paying renters and that sort of thing. And the other side of the coin is people say, well, what they're really going after are people who are violating the law, lawbreakers, people who are violating their leases, making life unpleasant in the building with other tenants. And they talk about some of the tech is as simple as just cameras in the halls, but others are things that kind of record from outside, but sort of gather data about what's going on inside apartments. What do y'all think of all of what's going on? Is it just, unjust? Is it a surveillance state thing?
I think as long as they're open and upfront about it, like, just so if you're going to rent here, we have, these cameras and, according to your rent agreement, the whatever quiet hours are from 10 to 6. And so we have technology that, isn't going to be in your apartment, but in the hallways that are checking for that. I think as long as they're upfront about it.
Right.
If you don't like it, you don't have to rent at that place. I mean, yeah, I since it's in a public space, I don't really see it so much as a invasion of privacy, because you don't own the apartment as opposed to owning your own home.
Right.
But you do have an expectation of some privacy within a space that you're renting. I mean, yes,
True.
The landlord can come in and change out the filters, but you don't want them wandering in at all hours of the day and night, and or putting cameras in there inside the apartment.
Right. Oh,
right.
Absolutely. Right.
Definitely.
Right.
But, like things like if somebody says, well, there's a policy, you can only have 4 people in that apartment at any one time, and somebody comes in and their family comes in for a week or so, and now they've said, oh, we can tell by these sensors that are, doing infrared that how many people are in there, and now you're out. That would to me be unfair.
Yeah.
Because it's punitive at that point. It's not health and safety regulations necessarily.
So, some of the way that it's marketed by these companies feels pretty darn icky. Hey, we've evicted over 600 rent stabilized tenants in the last 2 years. That
motive.
That feels like you have a bad motive here. Now, I don't want to get into the politics too much, but it's kind of a little bit of the consequence of rent control in general. When you create rent control and artificially put a ceiling on how high rents can go, you're going to have landlords who are looking for ways to raise that rent and doing stuff like this. So some of it's a consequence of that. But really, in general, I'm okay with landlords trying to keep a safe, pleasant place to live, like you said, Father. But there's a line that can get crossed, and that might not be a clear line, a bright line, but there is definitely a line to where it gets into creepy Big Brother, unfair sort of things. And that's the thing I worry about. So our next headline is also a little bit about surveillance. This woman was fired from her job because she was stealing time, quote unquote, from her employer. She was, unbeknownst to her, this is something we talked about recently, unbeknownst to her, they installed time tracking software on her work computer. She was working from home, and she was not spending her time, according to this time tracking software, doing her job. And she tried to claim, well, I didn't know this was there. I was printing out documents and doing them by hand instead of on the computer. And they said, yeah, we can track printing, and you didn't print any documents. And so it felt like a clear case of someone, in this case, someone who really wasn't doing their job and getting caught.
They were abusing the system.
But gosh, it really still feels like I wouldn't want my employer to have remote tracking software on my computer.
And that is a trend we're seeing in the last year and a half because people working from home, employers are beginning to do this type of thing. And even in some of the things where they record where people are driving if they're driving for a job and say, well, you stopped here at a McDonald's and therefore you didn't clock out for that time and you spent too long in the bathroom. And, some of these things get to be pretty punitive and pretty, as you say, icky and pretty not fair.
Right.
I would want to see, I mean, I can kind of see it from both sides here, but I would rather the employer just be upfront about it. Like if you're going to take your a work computer, just know that, I mean, and you should be kind of assuming that anyway. Anything you do on a work computer is liable
Subject to looking.
Right. But, and if you do a lot of work, offline, that's fine, but like
talk to your boss about
results.
it.
Yeah. And results should be showing that you're doing the work, not just a mechanical timekeeping thing.
Right. Because some people just work better, and the computer can't track the best way that everybody works. But as long as you're doing your job,
right,
the computer might say you are or say you aren't. If you got results, if you can adequately do it.
Yeah. As a boss in the past, I've always wanted, and as an employee, to be treated as an adult. This is the work you need to get done. If you get it done, I don't care how long it takes you or what else you're doing. But if you're doing if you're producing what needs to be produced, and doing that, and the stuff is getting done, I don't care. I don't care how the sausage gets made. Just get it done. But I know that not everybody can be treated that way because I've had that bite me as well.
There seems to be two sort of approaches here. One is I trust you and you do your work and you then get rewarded for it. You get your promotion and you get, a raise and that's the, I guess you'd say, the carrot leading the horse in that sense.
Yeah.
Versus here's a computer, it's watching what you're doing, do your job.
Right.
And so that's sort of the stick. Like if you do the job and we're watching you, it's sort of a more fear-based rather than optimistic, I trust you sort of thing.
Yeah, I trust you or I don't trust you, really is what it is. If in setting up that adversarial I don't trust you relationship with an employee without cause, I mean, sometimes you'll have an employee who, you're giving them another chance, you're trying to help them improve, and you use some of these tools to help them be accountable and to grow. That would be one thing. But again, there would be transparency in that. But just installing, I mean, obviously in this case, it sounds like there was a reason to install it on this woman's computer.
Yeah, well, and it also just speaks to the larger issue, and I think we did kind of mention it, is just communication.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're adequately communicating to your employer, hey, I'm doing the work that needs to be done, and I'm doing it in this way. Great, that's perfectly fine, and then you almost don't need a computer watching your every move. But if you just if you don't communicate, sometimes you almost need that extra set of eyes on someone.
Right.
Which is unfortunate.
Right. Well, it becomes a substitute for good communication, and and that's not good. Yeah. A good manager knows how to communicate expectations to his employees and to draw that out of them, the results that they want. And not everybody's a good manager, so that's...
And reasonable monitoring, something that you're looking at certain measures to make sure that things are getting done. Yeah, there have to be some quantifiable measurements in a job. But yeah, it's the same thing that we came back to with helping your kids grow up. There's the I'm going to restrict everything you do and monitor it and let you know everything you've done wrong versus, again, communication and fostering responsibility and fostering growth. I mean, it's the same at home as it is in a workplace sometimes.
People are people. That's what it comes down to. But respect, I think, is the big one. And I think that's a very, the Catholic Church's attitude toward labor and work has always been about respect, or employee for employer, but employer for employee as well. That we are recognized outside of this workplace or inside the workplace too, we are brothers and sisters, and we need to help each other, and it should not be adversarial. And I think that's the principle that should be behind whatever way you use this. So our next headline, if folks remember, back at the end of December, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, or it might have been last week, but Southwest Airlines troubles with their computer scheduling system. Well, that was just Southwest. Last week, it was everybody was shut down. The entire U.S. Commercial aviation system was shut down for a period of time. Last Wednesday, I think it might have been, and the FAA's, they have a system. It's called the NOTAM system, Notice to Airmen. It's a system that provides critical data about anything you need to know. Like, it's sort of like when you do Apple Maps or Google Maps. It gives you the route, but it also tells you about traffic, hazards, anything you need to know. It's a similar system where it provides critical information about the flight from here to there. And so that system went down, and apparently it was because they had a corrupted file in their database, and the backup was corrupted as well. Which the big lesson here is the one we always tell you about is backup, but always test your backups, because the corrupted backup is just as bad as no backup at all. And always have 2 backups, 3 at least. Was it the 3-2-1 rule?
Multiple Yeah. Right. Well, grandfather, father, son was another one too.
Oh, okay.
Of having multiple copies that you could fall back to. Yeah.
Right. And they didn't have it, and the system is way out of date. And
of course,
and because it's a federal system, and they haven't spent the money to fix it, because what's more critical than keeping millions of air travelers safe. So, but any thoughts besides my thoughts on this?
No, it's just sad.
I think they're going to spend the money and update things now.
Yes. So what they should have told us, the guy at the FAA, okay, type into the terminal, drop table. No, I'm just kidding. If it's a SQL database, don't drop the tables. That's basically deleting them. But yeah, it's probably a SQL database too. If you think about it, they said it's a database system, and it's probably just some old SQL database. Just kind of boggles my mind. So then, last bit of news is breaking news today. We don't often do breaking news, but this was Apple's been busy this week. They've released a whole bunch of new products or updates to products. They've had a new HomePod, the full-size HomePod, which they discontinued in 2021, which is interesting. Updated Mac Mini, MacBook Pros, all that sort of stuff, but also some rumors. And I generally try to avoid rumors too much on the show. But we've talked a lot about Apple's forthcoming virtual reality glasses, augmented reality. And so there's a report out from Bloomberg News, which was reported by Reuters, that said that Apple is indefinitely postponing the launch of lightweight augmented reality glasses, but is still planning to unveil mixed reality headset this year. So these are 2 different products. We've talked about what Apple's plans are before. So the Holy Grail is augmented reality glasses that are not much bigger than regular eyeglasses, right? That's what they really want. But what we're likely to get in the interim, because that's a really hard challenge to crack, is a mixed reality AR VR headset that later this year, kind of competing with Meta Quest, the Meta Oculus Quest. What do y'all think of this news? Is it super disappointing? Were you hoping for something?
I'm disappointed.
I wasn't planning on getting them, but it's sad that something isn't coming to fruition. But maybe they'll take what they learned there and put it into the other product, or make that better.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I could ever afford the AR glasses, but I love the idea of them, because it's more than just VR, which you're sort of confined. Like, you're not going to put on a VR headset and go outside and walk downtown. I mean, you're the point is you're entering the virtual environment, and so you stay in your cleared out living room so you don't bump into furniture. Right. But the AR glasses just really kind of, I almost think this is kind of the fantasy version in my head. If you've ever seen Free Guy, It's a fairly recent movie. You know, Ryan Reynolds puts on the sunglasses and like can see like all the different spots where there's missions in the city and stuff. You know, that's kind of like what I envision an AR glasses to do. Probably not as big, but, you know, give you information about various places as you're walking by them or whatever. And that whole idea just really kind of appealed to me because I kind of like the AR just world, you know, doing some AR games on my phone and that sort of thing. So I'm disappointed, but
yeah.
I could see it being a real supplement to your Pokemon.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the biggest games that it would work.
Yeah.
But I imagine, I mean, I can't imagine actually. I mean, how difficult that would be to put something like that. Even CES had those AR glasses, which they're just giving kind of basic information because you're just doing it on you're doing it on a little tiny lens. I mean, how do you do more?
Right.
You can't hardly. So I understand that it's difficult, but I was hoping Apple would pull out some magic and really wow us.
Apparently the ones that they are coming out with are going to be around $3,000. So.
And I'll stick with the Meta Quest for a lot cheaper. And it's already got the Star Wars and Doctor Who games that I really like.
Right. Exactly. So. Well, it'll be interesting to see because whatever Apple comes out with is undoubtedly going to be wow and that sort of thing, and they're not going to come out with anything that isn't the fulfillment of the idea. So, we'll see. They've been talking about it for so long, so I'll be curious to see if that ever comes to fruition. That should be fun. So those were our headlines. Let's move on to our picks of the week. Pat, why don't you share your pick this week?
Well, I actually had a practical reason for this one. I had a chandelier that had some lights in it. And when I do my VR, you have to have light in the room in order for the controllers to pick up and know where they are in space. And so that the headset can tell what's ahead of you, behind you, or around you, etc. Well, I didn't realize a couple of the lights had gone dim or as in missing. Are dead. And so all of a sudden I would be playing golf and my putter would just wander off across the room. And I'd try to bring it back and putt and it would just go off the other way or it would jerk. And I couldn't figure out what was happening for the longest time because I could look around and see in the room. So what I realized is my lights were two of them were out. So I went and replaced the lights and it was better, but I still had problems. And I golf with a lot of people that also talk about if you've got Christmas lights up or if you've got sunlight streaming in through a room, it can mess your tracking up really badly when you're playing. So I found some infrared little lights that you plug them in. You can play in the dark. And the room can be totally dark. And so this also gives you another opportunity to say, I want to play when people are sleeping in the room with me, or I want to watch a movie, or I want to do something like that. I don't want to disturb them. You can see as if it were daylight with this one little tiny lamp that just, you set it on the sideboard or the dresser, and it just, and inside the headset, you can see everything.
Cool.
So it's not expensive, and it took care of my floating putter problem. But I know when I was with my brother, there were times that I would want to do something, but I didn't want to leave the light on in the room. It was kind of distracting for the rest of the people. Hey, she's still up,
Right.
And so this would let you turn off all the lights and play as if it were daylight. And you can also take it outside and play outside where normally you're not supposed to be having sunlight or anything get anywhere near the lens. You could put this in an outdoor area and play outside at night.
Oh, wow. At night. Yeah.
Yes.
See, and the other thing is like playing in the dark helps because sometimes there's light leakage under the lens.
Oh, yes.
And that helps. The
nose hole.
Yeah. So that would help too with that. That's pretty cool. That's a bright idea. No pun intended.
Right. Yes, it was.
I'll take credit for that. I didn't intend it, but I'll take it anyway. Good, very good. And it's not very expensive. It's like $17, right? On Amazon. All right, Father, what's your pick this week?
So my pick this week is unfortunately restricted to Apple users, and unfortunately even more restricted to iOS 16 and iPhone 14 Pro or Pro Max users. So if you're one of those groups, my pick is the Dynamic Island. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, it's Apple's response to the notch that's in the top of the newer model iPhones, which doesn't have any functionality except for it's where the camera is on the top of the phone. But the Dynamic Island kind of cuts the notch into, they call it a pill, which sort of makes sense. It's
Sure.
a black looking kind of oval that covers the camera, but it expands and it shrinks depending on certain apps that are showing you live activities, which I found to be way more useful than I was expecting. So for example, things like if you're going to get an Uber or a Lyft, it'll show you updates in that Dynamic Island, so you can be using other apps and you don't need to be in the Lyft app or the Uber app, and it'll have updates come across the Dynamic Island. It'll show you your current music playing. If you have music playing, it'll show you current driving directions if you're using Apple Maps, and it'll kind of actually split both of those to two different little sections of the Dynamic Island. So it's kind of fancy that way. The other one recently that I found it was really helpful with was when I was flying back to DC, I found an app called Flighty, which it gave me one free flight to use with the live tracker before it asked me to pay. And so I didn't pay for it, but I used it for one of the flights that I had going back to DC, and that would send a live update to the Dynamic Island, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then of course what's coming is live football scores and live sports scores, which I haven't been able to try any of those yet, but the Dynamic Island I think is a really fun new addition to the iOS system and the newer phones.
Yeah, I run into that all the time. Like when I'm driving somewhere and I'm listening to podcasts, I've got map instructions.
Yep.
And I switch to the podcast app, and the map instructions, like, they kind of cover the top third of the screen, and it's just kind of in the way. And it would be nice to have something like that. So I'm on the every other year update cycle. So maybe when I get my iPhone 15 later this year, I'll be able to join you on Dynamic Island. And
yeah,
and I'm on the every other party.
Yeah, I'm on the even year update.
Okay.
Plan. So
yep. Don't get voted off Dynamic Island because you'll be in the static desert. I don't know.
And I'm still way far behind either of you on my phone. So I've got, maybe this year I'll break for an update.
There you go. So my pick this week is the Elgato Stream Deck XL. So I've previously picked the Stream Deck, the no X, no L, no nothing, which has 15 buttons. But the Stream Deck XL has 32 buttons. And what the Stream Deck is, it's a programmable keypad where each key is a little monitor, a little screen that changes. It can have a different icon or even dynamic information that updates as you use it. And so you could also set up profiles so that when you're in different apps, a different set of buttons will show up. So like when I'm podcasting and I'm in the Audio Hijack Pro, which is my recording software, I have all kinds of buttons for, stop, start, make a note, that sort of thing. What I've done is I still have my original 15 button Stream Deck next to my XL. The 15 button stays static. It has my default setup that can then cause things to happen on the larger one and all the different buttons. One of the things I've done with my Stream Deck is I've programmed it to have 3 buttons all the time that show me what the temperature is in my office using a hue temperature sensor. And I programmed it, and I'm kind of proud of myself for figuring out how to do this, to show me the outdoor temperature as well. And also, what was the third temperature? In the pantry, which is the room next to the office. So I get the 3 temperatures all the time. And so sometimes I'll, what, it's kind of warm in here. Oh, I'll turn the fan on because it's 72 degrees in here or something like that. So it's really kind of, it does so much. It's hard to just do maybe I should do a whole episode where I talk about the Stream Deck, because I can do so much with it. It's become such a key to getting my work done every day. I can start a podcasting session at the press of a button. I hit a button that says start. It launches my recording software, turns off the lights in the office, turns on my studio recording lights, including my new accent light up here under my Saturn V, which Pat and Father Andrew can see in the video. If you want to see that, you'll have to watch Secrets of Star Trek, Doctor Who, or Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, just so you know, because we do those in video. And then, sets a personal focus mode, a podcasting focus mode on my computers, turns off the speakers so you don't hear my computers making noise and all that sort of stuff. I mean, just does all this stuff just at the push of a button. I also have another button where it's called Start My Day, where I press it and it launches a bunch of apps, does a bunch of other stuff to, get me going in the day. So I love the Stream Deck. I love the Stream Deck XL. It's this huge, 32 buttons. If you ask nicely, maybe I'll do a special blog post on my website, my blog, about it too. So that's my pick. So
Okay.
that will do it for this time, I guess. We would love to get your feedback on anything we talked about today. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology, or the StarQuest Facebook page at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com, or visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/Discord, where if you're listening now, you've missed Father Andrew's Ask Me Anything session that he did last week. Thank you, Father, for doing that.
Absolutely.
It was a lot of fun to see the questions folks asked, and we're going to be doing that every few months. It's a different person every time. We're going to try to get a lot of the different StarQuest folks to join us for that. So you can find that at sqpn.com/Discord. You'll find links from our discussion and picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC196. That's Tech 196. And remember to like each episode of Secrets of Tech on our Facebook page, retweet us on Twitter, leave us comments wherever you find us. And we'd like to thank James for his research assistance in this episode. And until next time, Pat Scott, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Good to be here.
Father Andrew Kinstetter, thank you as well.
Absolutely.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.